Welcome to 13 Weeks to Mindfulness from True Path. This is a 13-week series that takes you from learning what mindfulness is all the way to hopefully after 13 weeks, you become organically mindful in your daily life, making mindfulness a habit. And when that happens, it's amazing. So 13 Weeks to Mindfulness is a section within True Path, the True Path Planner, that is a 13-week goal setting guide that gives you direction, structure, and accountability, all in the form of a daily planner. And within that, besides being an amazing tool for, goal setting and creating habits and being more productive and keeping you on track, I created this 13 Weeks to Mindfulness section because I believe mindfulness is one of the most important aspects that we as humans can develop. And so mindfulness in itself is really what I call the art of paying attention on purpose. So we live a lot of our lives in the past and in the future when really life happens in the present. But with this fast-paced life, with all the information that we're hit with, it's hard to be there. A lot of times, we're in la-la land, as I like to say. So coming back to the present and being mindful takes practice. And so that's what this 13 weeks is here to do. So what I did was just to show you, if you have your True Paths, take them out. If you don't have them, I'm going to show you. This is what the weekly, pages look like right here. And in it, you have the 13 Weeks to Mindfulness. Okay, and we're going to get back to this in a moment. And then every single day on the daily pages, this is the daily page. And right here, today I will mindfully. And as you can see, it's a pretty big section. And there's a reason for that, because mindfulness is something that's important in our lives. As I said, staying focused and staying present allows you to live and experience life in a much more, a rich fashion than just being off into la-la land. What does mindfulness actually do for you, and why is it important? So mindfulness actually exercises your brain, okay? And I'll show you how it does this in a second. We all like to exercise our bodies, or most of us do. We eat right and we exercise, but very few of us exercise our brain. And that's exactly what mindfulness does. Anytime that you bring yourself back to the present and you're being mindful, you're actually exercising your brain. And I'll show you how this works. So this diagram here, the me center is basically who we are. It's our experiences, and it's kind of what makes us us. And then the fear center here this is our emotional state. Okay. And then the assessment center, this is logic. So we're animals. So naturally our neural pathways within our brain from our emotional fear center to who we are, to make up who we are, is pretty strong. And then the neural pathway from our logic, the assessment center, to who we are is not as strong. So, when something happens to us, whether that's, fear or anger, or if, you have anxiety or you're stressed, that emotion is extremely strong. And what happens is it comes up, and emotions only take 5 to 7 seconds really to rise. And, once an emotion comes up and takes over, sometimes you're just along for the ride. And that's what normally will happen in, this sort of brain. When you practice mindfulness, what it does is it actually changes your brain. It's one of the only things that you can do yourself that you can actually change your brain. They've had studies of, mindfulness practice of people who've done it for 8 weeks, and it's increased the gray matter in the parts that you want and decreased it in the parts that you don't want. So after practicing mindfulness, this is more of what the brain will look like. This is obviously an exaggerated sort of form, but here's your emotional center and here's your neural pathway. What happens is you strengthen your neural pathway from the logic center. So the more you practice mindfulness, the more your logic center becomes a part of who you are. So when that event happens or something happens to you, say somebody cuts you off, on your way to work, your natural reaction could be, anger. And if you let that anger come up and take over, you're just along for the ride. And that can actually ruin your entire day, just that one thing. But if you practice mindfulness, you have what I like to call a more level head. So that emotion is going to come up naturally. It's just the way it is. But your logic's going to come up. You're going to have a stronger neural pathway from your logic center to here. So it's going to meet that emotion. So instead of, getting angry or, completely upset and having it ruin your day, or even, saying the wrong thing to somebody or, something you regret later, that happens more often with this brain, if I can get there, with the neural pathway from the emotions than it will with this brain, the mindfulness brain, when you've practiced mindfulness. So here, you're going to be able to control your emotions better. So that's why you want to practice mindfulness. For one reason, to become more emotionally intelligent. But there's a lot of reasons why. And through these 13 weeks, I'm going to explain, besides just different exercises, different things about mindfulness, facts and, how it helps you and where it helps you and how to apply it within your life. And when you do it, like I said, it's a pretty amazing thing. And when you become organically mindful, it's an amazing thing. And organically mindful, again, is really, it just means you're here more often than you're in la la land. You're able to understand and be aware of your circumstances and the way you feel and who you are. So this week, this is week 1 in True Path, and this is what we're going to do. We're going to start you out with awareness. And what it says is, most of us move through our day in a habitual state. This week, pick one thing to focus on each day. It can be your drive to work, a conversation, or even the way your cup of coffee tastes. Wake up your mind at least once a day, pick something, and make a point to pay attention to it on purpose. So that's all you're doing. And really the way I'm looking at it is, if you want to do a cup of coffee or, you want to pick a conversation and really just kind of pay attention to it, that's awesome. Then do that. I will tell you, you're going to have to remind yourself to be mindful, just like with the habits and reminders. That's why this section is extremely, it's larger and extremely important. Reminders is a big part of habits, this is what you're trying to do, is make mindfulness a habit in your life. But in order to do that, you have to remind yourself. So one thing I do, especially at the beginning, is we all have our phones. Set your alarm. So whether it's, 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, set your alarm. And then when it goes off, if you've chosen to do an activity, then that's fine. You can write that on your daily, today I will be mindfully, and just pick what you're going to do. Otherwise, you can put alarm 2 o'clock. And what you can do is you can simply just stop what you're doing and observe your surroundings for 60 seconds. You don't have to do it for 10 minutes, 5 minutes, or anything like that. Right now, we're just going to do 60 seconds. So if you're in an office, just kind of stop what you're doing and just kind of observe what you're doing. You're not judging. You're not looking around and judging what's going on. You're observing. Mindfulness is a non-judgmental. You're not labeling. You're not doing any of this type of stuff. You're really just sitting there and taking in what's going on and what's around you. So it's a simple observation for 60 seconds. If you're driving to work and your alarm goes, or if you're driving, around town and your alarm goes off, then pay attention to driving, how your hands are on the wheel, what's going on. A lot of times when we drive, we get to a place and we don't even remember that drive because we're off into la la land. So this is the point. So this week, it's really just the awareness. So start to be aware, okay? And all you have to do is 60 seconds each day. Next week, we're going to come in, and I believe we have breathing is next week, and then we're going to go on from there. And like I said, after 13 weeks, hopefully you become organically mindful, and all of this becomes habitual for you, which is good. Habitual in a good way, because making mindfulness a habit takes you to a whole nother level in life, okay? If you have any questions, you can just email me. And you can email me at success@truepathplanner.com. Also, I'm not sure where you're watching this from, but I'm going to have all 13 weeks of the mindfulness series, including links and, to articles and exercises on each week about what I'm talking about. Okay. I wish you the best this week in the exercises, and I will talk to you next week.